Allen Lund Company looks forward to seeing you at Matt's in March.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
Everything from truck parking, increased size and weight, AEBs, and overtime were discussed today at a congressional hearing, and OOIDA's Executive Vice President explained what the major concerns are. Landline Magazine's Mark Schremer discusses what was said. For several years now, OOIDA member Paul Marhofer has gone by a different name, Long Haul Paul. The trucking singer recently released a new trucking song. Ashley Blackford talked with him about the song and his history in the trucking industry. The issue of cargo theft is one that continues to torment the trucking industry. We'll have an encore of Ashley's conversation with Trina Skywalker and Lisa Waskey of OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department about what you can do to ensure your safety and avoid any theft claims. And finally, we're on the climb back to a normal freight market, according to Brent Hutto of Truck Stop. He says load availability went up last week, which is good news for rates. We'll break down all the numbers in today's market update. And now, here's Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Mark. Today, the U.S. House Transportation hearing was held to discuss policies for the next highway bill. OOIDA's Executive Vice President Louis Pugh was among the 5 to testify at the hearing. To talk about this, Landline Magazine's Mark Schremer joins me. Mark, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ashley.
Now, you and I both just sat through this hearing. Lots to discuss. But I wanted to ask you, Representative Troy Nehls, once again, I think this is the third time he's held up Landline Magazine.
I think it's just the second, but every time it just makes my day. Such a huge smile on my face, and you can hear me probably yelling in the newsroom if you're down there when that comes across. But yeah, Representative Nehls has been very supportive of OIDA and a number of issues. Truck parking. He's introduced the restroom bill, and he's been very supportive of Landline Magazine and their coverage, and that we take a lot of pride in that. So this is the second time that he actually picked up the magazine. In this instance, he actually asked the chairman to submit the article to the record because what they were talking about today in the transportation hearing was kind of prepping for the highway bill. And they brought in a lot of trucking experts, including OIDA Executive Vice President Louis Pugh, to hear about the things that are needed for this next highway bill. And an article actually that I wrote, he held up, and the headline was Pro-Trucker Priority. So it was a lot of the things that OIDA and truckers, are saying that are needed coming up. How to improve the profession of truck drivers, make it more safe, improve overall safety, and eliminate this driver turnover problem that is so prevalent in the industry because of lower wages and poor working conditions. Let's make trucking a real career. And so all of these things, and some of those issues are things like truck parking and, just having simple things like access to a restroom, which, again, Representative Nehls has been a great, strong advocate for that. And hopefully, he mentioned, too, that should be introduced next week, that bill, and hopefully that'll get passed or included in this highway bill.
And for those testifying, pretty much most of them kind of were saying the same thing. I know there was one gentleman who was kind of, said there wasn't a shortage, was in favor of increased weight. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So, there were probably two kind of debates within it. Like you said, a lot of the things in there, for the most part, there was a consensus. I don't think there was really anybody there who would argue that there isn't a lack of truck parking, but two of the issues that there was a debate on was the driver shortage and whether or not we should increase the weight of trucks out on the highways. And, we had OIDA and the Teamsters very adamant that there is not a driver shortage. And, and the thing is, they're pointing to facts. I mean, they're, Bureau of Labor has produced reports last year of the National Academy of Sciences, and all, different academics out there have, in the last 4 or 5 years, have issued reports again and again saying there's not a driver shortage. We're hearing about an overcapacity issue, and that's why freight rates are so low right now, is because there are more trucks available than what the freight. So to say that there's a driver shortage when there's too many trucks, because supply and demand would make that pretty clear. If there was a lack of drivers, a lack of trucks to haul all of the freight, prices would go up. I'm not an economist, but I know enough to know that. We did have Mr. Lindsay representing, I think it was the Shipper Coalition, that was kind of the one that saying that, no, we're trying to hire 1,000 drivers right now. We got applications. Some of this stuff you look at, just because of one anecdotal story doesn't mean it really kind of creates the whole thing. I don't know why that business is having such a hard time attracting drivers, or, I don't know what their turnover rate is. That would be a very interesting question. Like, is it just an issue like there is with so many of the large fleets out there that just can't keep drivers, where the turnover rates are 90%, 100%. I mean, think of the idea of how bad things have to be to have 100% turnover rate, within a year, having to replace all of those drivers. So that's telling you what the real issue is that it's turnover, not driver shortage, in my opinion, and not really not even opinion, because we've done studies on this again and again, and that's what economists and academics will tell you, that there is not a driver shortage in the trucking industry. But it was a pretty, intriguing debate to watch at times there. And the other one was on truck weights. And it's really kind of the same players again, OIDA, Teamsters, and in this instance, the Truckloads Carriers Association also are all saying, okay, we do not want to increase the weights. It's going to hurt local bridges. It's going to be less safe for the truck drivers out there hauling freight. The truckers don't want it. It's not going to, increase, because since so many drivers are paid by the mile. So if that truck, instead of having 80,000 pounds in it, it now has 91,000, and they're still getting paid the same amount by the mile, that is not going to be beneficial to them. Mr. Lindsay in this was saying in their instance that they would actually pay by the weight. But again, that is not, what is common out there in the industry. What you hear most of the time, that they're paid by the mile, and I think it really is a safety issue, in these instances where you're going to have that much more weight out there on the highway.
All right, Mark, I know there's a lot more we could dive into, and I know we'll definitely be doing that over the next couple of days. Thank you so much, though, for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That was Mark Schremer. You can read his article on the hearing on landline.media. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. Congratulations to Raymond Rosato of Clifton, New Jersey. He's received the OOIDA Safe Driving Award for 19 years of safe, accident-free driving. That's the equivalent of a car driver going 143 years without causing a single accident. The OOIDA Safe Driving Award program is sponsored by Shell Rotella. Next, we'll hear from trucking singer Long Haul Paul about his latest trucking song. We'll have an encore of our conversation with the experts from OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department about cargo theft, and we'll be joined by Brent Hutto of Truck Stop. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Protect your diesel engine with Howe's Diesel Defender. Restore vital lubricity, eliminate injector deposits, and boost fuel economy by 5% or more. Power, performance, protection, all in one. House Diesel Defender, available now.
Firestone's FD694 drive tire for long haul and regional applications now delivers 126,000 more removal miles than the Yokohama TY517 MC2. Contact your Firestone commercial dealer to learn more.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Landline Now, welcome back. I recently spoke with OOIDA member Paul Marhoefer, or Long Haul Paul as he's better known. He recently released a song about trucking. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm curious, I guess, before we get into the music part of things, how long have you been in trucking?
Well, I started trucking full-time in 1979 for a small food distribution company. And but I was only a local guy, and then in 87, I went full-time over the road. And my years from 79 to 87 were off and on years. I was going back to college, trying to finish college, and going back and forth to the truck, and I was just a little six-wheeler. So I have to. I had some sum of wheels shame back then. When I would go to the truck stops, I would park way in the back and walk up to the restaurant in a circuitous manner so nobody could connect me with the truck, and because I didn't want to be called out as somebody saying, "Hey, aren't you in that six-wheeler?" Because that literally happened to a friend of mine back in the day.
What was it about trucking that drew you in?
Well, my father had trucks, and I was a pump boy. My father and his father had a large meat packing company, and my first job at the age of 14, other than being a paper boy, was I would ride my bicycle 5 miles on my summer job, and I was the guy who would put fuel in the trucks and park them, and my dad's drivers were all Teamsters, and that wasn't part of their job. And I sort of love being around that culture because we had the Teamsters, and none of these guys were job scared. They would speak their mind, and that sort of resonated to my rebellious teenage nature. And then my dad at the time was buying Colorado box beef from a company called Montford, and those drivers, they were a different type of driver. Back then they were impeccably dressed, and they looked like they'd just walked off the set of a Western, and sometimes they would tip me, and my job was to wash out their trucks because they would unload, and their trucks would still have to be washed out before they could reload, and I just sort of fell in love with that, maybe that zeitgeist, that mindset, and much to the chagrin of my parents, who wanted me to be some sort of professional. My siblings are like teachers. One's a lawyer. One's a language interpreter internationally, and then it was sort of difficult for my parents for me to become a truck driver.
Now, the music part of things, when did you first get into music and start singing?
Well, I grew up with the love of words. My father used to read us Robert's Service out loud, the great bard of the Yukon, and my father had two main loves, Studs Terkel and Robert's Service. And Studs Terkel was the great oral historian from Chicago who had books like Working and The Great War and Hard Times, where he would interview survivors of the Depression, people who went through World War II, how people felt about their jobs. And I really loved those two entities. And then Robert Service was the great gold prospector up in the Yukon Territory who wrote these gritty poems about different prospectors he had met up there. And those two loves informed my writing. And I actually began writing seriously in 1981. And all my songs then were gospel songs. And I was attending a church that had a very progressive music program, and I kind of blossomed as a songwriter under their tutelage. But they did not allow what they called secular songs. They were very strict about that. Mm-hmm. And one day, one of the deacons of the church I had my own apartment by the time I was 19, was doing my trucking thing, and one of the deacons of the church was like really frowning on my album collection. I had all these blues albums, a pretty extensive chess collection, and I can, like, they didn't allow that. And I was very young and impressionable. I wouldn't do that today, but I got rid of my records. And at that point, I began writing songs. I was almost like to replace the songs I had lost, in a sense. And maybe that was necessary then, though. I don't know. But then when my father-in-law died and we were very close, I committed this act of rebellion. I wrote a song about something that had happened to me, and not just an abstract religious concept. And that rebellion continues to this day.
Now, you've obviously gotten into writing a lot of songs about trucking. You recently came out with a new one. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, and thanks for having me here to talk about that. 4 Million Miles Deep was the result of a conversation I had with a driver who had just was on his way back from Vanderbilt in Nashville, and had just gotten word that he was given 6 months to live. And I was on the phone with him while he was processing this, and there's just something about that stage 4 clarity, and I thought, man, this needs to be curated and in a song form. And so that's how a lot of my songs I write just out of some cathartic need to, for something difficult that I've seen out here on the road. 4 million miles deep on a heartbroken line. Now you can't hardly sleep, 'cause you've lived past your time.
I saw some of the comments, which were amazing. One of them, I think I wrote down, somebody said, I feel every word of this song. How does that feel to get the kind of comments like that?
Well, I'll tell you, Ashley, my wife Denise is here with me, and it really does, it means a lot. And because I'm still out here pushing a truck down the road, and we're living in this age of the great democratization of sound, where, truck drivers are putting out albums. Sometimes their songs get it on the radio. And 20 years ago, this never would have happened. Somebody with money would have had to have gambled money on putting a record out on me. And frankly, I fell out of the cosmetic presentability tree maybe 3 million miles ago. No record company would ever have bet on me. I don't think. But so those are the small discoveries that we rely on. Sometimes we've had deep and meaningful friendships with people. Like, for example, the folks that sponsored this video, MD Alignment and S&B Transportation out of South Dakota. Now, in no other world could you connect with somebody from South Dakota who says, hey, I want to help you do this. But, that's what the digital age has done. So this is probably always going to be a small cult following. But and we don't even like to say fans. We like to say friends, because fans almost seems like a positional one-upment, like a one-upmanship. But we have wonderful friends who, and we don't expect these things to be mass consumed, but every now and then somebody comes along and really gets it.
What is the process like when you go from writing the song to recording it and shooting the video? What is that process like?
Well, I've fallen into this this process where I record the song as a solo acoustic track. It's just me and the guitar, and then we listen to it for a while and we say, what does it need? And we might send it around. Some of our songs from this album got passed around in Austin, Texas. Gurf Molex put a bass part on one of them, for example. And in this case, we thought, how about a dobro, you know? But that was a deliberate process, which over the course of months, because, you know, I only have so much time to jump out of the truck and go to the studio. And so we have a wonderful dobro player who lives nearby. And there's a lot of talent right around here. I almost think there's talent everywhere. And if you give it a template and if you give it a space, Eric Hofer was the great longshoreman philosopher, and he made this comment that he spent the Depression on Skid Row. And when he came out of the Depression as a longshoreman, he said, Skid Row is lousy with talent. I mean, there's all kinds of talent everywhere. So we put Marty Price on the dobro, and then Jeff Templeton put a bass part on. But what we have to have first is a good standalone solo acoustic signal. Pardon me. A good solo acoustic track. And then we, what was I trying to say? I don't remember. But we build off of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, in the video, which was beautifully shot, by the way, you're in front of a Freightliner. Is there any story behind that?
Oh, yeah. Tim Raby very graciously allowed us to use his Freightliner. He bought this Freightliner and completely restored it. And it's a cool truck. And he thought he might go ahead and own or operate that. And he's a coworker where I work at Moeller Trucking. And, you know, then the rates kind of got a little squirrely. So he's just got that as a kind of a working show truck right now. Yeah. And I used to drive a truck a lot like that. And I do think that the visuals were so great. We were so fortunate to have a gentleman named James Year, who was a graduate of Syracuse University, come and shoot that. And he's got a real advocate's heart in the trucking world. His master's was chronicling the culture of trucking and what he feels could be in its final. I hope not, but you know, he wanted to chronicle the culture of trucking before it was AI'd out of existence. And so I'm glad he shot that video, and I'm glad he did his project, but I hope it will be longer than he thinks for this industry.
Still your hands on the plow, still running for pay, but you're all out of gears.
If anyone listening or watching wants to find you online, how can they do that?
I just go to Long Haul Paul Music, and they'll find us.
That was Long Haul Paul talking about his new song, 4 Million Miles Deep. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Oh, we don't need you around here.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a cat scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget this accuracy, weigh your truck on a cat scale.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
Landline Now. Welcome back. Like tires, fuel, and an engine, insurance is one of those things you just have to have for your truck. But not all insurance is created equal. Ashley Blackford is here with the experts from OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department to answer some questions.
Thanks, Mark, and hello to Trina Skywalker and Lisa Waskey with OOIDA's Insurance Department. How are you doing today, ladies?
Cold, but good.
It is cold.
It is cold.
It is cold. Today, we are talking about cargo theft. Now, sometimes I feel like there's topics in trucking that we talk about over and over and over again. But this is really one of those topics that I think we could probably discuss for many years to come, and probably will be discussing for many years to come. Is that right?
Hopefully, yeah. Well, hopefully on our part, we get to see you that often. I do not hope that cargo theft continues to be such a thing that we have to talk about it.
Yes, but yes, it definitely is an issue. I'm curious, numbers-wise, what are the numbers? What do they look like? Has it increased from year to year?
There typically is an increase. I mean, when I looked up some of the numbers at the end of 2023, they had already increased from the prior year. And then when I looked them up again, recently, they had increased even further. What did we say, Lisa? Like
41% of the theft in the first half of 24, increased. So, and a lot of those thefts were warehouses.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the, a lot of them are unsecured loads. Mm-hmm.
Or in a parking lot, or I don't know that it happens at truck stops too often, because those are usually lit, more secure camera areas. But yeah, it happens a lot in warehouses, and it is. I mean, overall, to answer your initial question, it is up around 46% from a year ago, which is huge. 46% is a huge increase.
Yeah. Yep. Why do you think that is?
I bet the people that steal the freight could give us a more insight on that. We can only speculate, but I'm sure it's easy to make money. If you
the economy is just so hard right now.
It is, yeah.
They're looking for any way they can to.
For my part, like stealing a whole load of freight is too much work.
I
mean, I'm too honest
Let's
for
put
it
that
anyway.
Effort into a job.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I can't even imagine what they go through to it. Honestly, it makes me think there's multiple parties involved.
Yeah.
Not the driver or the trucker necessarily, but it does make you wonder if there's a.
It's a ring.
It's
a full-on business.
Yeah.
And, people don't like to buy stolen goods, but people like a deal on stuff. And I think the offenders know that.
Yeah. And talk to me a little bit. There's, obviously different ways that this happens. I think I've seen videos of, the driver getting attacked and, them going into the back and getting everything out. But there's also some more, I don't want to say impressive ways that these thieves do this.
Don't church it up, Ashley.
I know. But there are, they're not just looking for a random trailer. There's some work that goes into this.
Sure.
Right, definitely. In other ways, not only are they just stealing straight from the source, when it's parked or something, but they are pretending to be a legitimate broker, or they're stealing somebody's identity, essentially booking the load.
We actually see that way too often.
Right.
I don't want to say all the time, but yeah, Lisa makes a really good point, because we do talk to owner-operators who have had not full-on identity stolen, but their numbers, their MCDOT number, accidents reported under those numbers when they were like, hey, I was across the country.
Yeah. Now, I know this usually spikes around the holidays. Have you gotten any calls? We're coming off the holidays now. I know numbers will probably come out in the weeks to come, but have you heard anything?
I've not heard anything yet.
Right.
I'm sure.
I would imagine people in our claims office have.
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't always trickle over to us. But yeah, like Lisa said, it's bound to happen.
Yeah. What are some of the common types of freight that typically get stolen?
Definitely your high-end stuff, copper, brass, aluminum, sports apparel, especially if it's licensed, brand, Nike brands, stuff like that. They're looking for that stuff because it's easy to sell, easy to
It is easy to sell, yeah. Even like personal care items and beauty products, again, it goes back to things that will sell quickly and easily, especially at probably some discounted price, you know.
I'm always interested, how is it, I mean, like I said earlier, it's not just people coming up on a trailer and being like, well, hopefully there's something good in here. Like, I mean, they look into this, right? Like they're looking into what the load is. I mean, I know there's probably some random, coming up on trailers as well, but
I think usually they do. I mean, we have seen, like one of you mentioned earlier about the situations where the driver's attacked and then, their trailer full of stuff is taken. And I think in a situation like that, you're probably taking more of a chance, like not knowing what's in the packages.
Yeah.
But I have seen like some claims that the driver had no idea it was even happening.
Right.
Like either woke up towards the end or got up the next day and everything's gone. That just goes to show how much time and effort they put into it. I mean, they are careful. Sometimes even maybe in a parking lot, that's well lit, or they're taking the risk.
And I know sometimes they take the, what's in the trailer out. But sometimes they just take the whole trailer, right?
Oh, sure. Yep. I would imagine so, yeah.
Which is, I'm always interested in the ones that steal trailers of meat. I'm like, where are you going with that? Like, are you putting that on Facebook Marketplace? Yeah. Like, how are you, like, how are you selling that?
Having some big barbecues.
Yes.
I've never really thought about it, but you have to wonder, is it to like a restaurant or...
Well, yeah.
Or are you just driving around with a refrigerated van?
Yeah, it just...
Going door to door?
That always makes me leery of those guys that do go door to door.
Yes, exactly. Where are you getting this stuff?
Right.
Honestly, though, they've been around forever, and usually they're pretty legit. Like the Schwann's man.
Yeah. What are some things drivers should do or could do to protect their freight?
Well, we always caution against leaving it unattended. And some aren't able to park their equipment at home, and so they do have to park in a facility or a truck stop or something like that close by. And so if that's the situation, try to go back and check on it as often as possible. I mean, and especially because a lot of cargo policies have an exclusion. If it's unattended for X amount of time and it's stolen or something happens, they may not cover it.
That's why it's good practice to try and find a lot that maybe you have to pay for, but that lot is gated, it's locked, there's cameras, which doesn't always prevent theft. I mean, it can still happen, but it just lowers the chances.
Well, and it helps your claim go more efficiently.
Yeah.
The more that a claims office or adjusters have to view or look at or help identify what transpired, it's just going to make it go a little more fluid.
Yeah.
What is the process if someone does fall victim with theft? What's the process in going through the insurance process, I guess?
Well, they just have to call our claims office, and show that the load was stolen. I mean, other than that, they follow up, they file a police report. Then you just hurry up and wait. If it's the whole trailer, is it going to be found?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure the loads never are found. Well, I can't say never. They probably are a very small chance, but...
Well, and, it's some of it's going to vary depending on your insurance company. First step, absolutely call insurance. See what they need from you, because a lot of times they'll probably ask for a bill of lading, or, they're going to want all the components to try and figure this out as quickly as possible. So they may even contact the receiver, like, where'd you pick it up? Where were you supposed to deliver it? Where was it at? In between those two places. Just be prepared to provide documentation. And like I said, that could vary depending on who you're insured with.
Now, when it comes to, broker fraud, that's a huge issue. What are some things that drivers can do to try to combat this?
Vet your brokers. Don't just assume that they're legitimate. Look up their MC numbers, their DOT numbers. do a check on them. I mean, truck drivers have a lot of friends. Hey, have you ever, worked with this company? Do your due diligence.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because that's how a lot of these thefts are happening, is someone has a quote-unquote broker authority, and, maybe they have to go through the steps to get it, or maybe they're using someone else's fraudulently, which is probably more likely the case. They'll book your load, and then that's one step in the ring that Lisa was talking about of theft. That is one thing that we've seen. So yeah, going back to vet those brokers, look at their longevity on FMCSA. How long have they had those numbers? A quick Google review. I mean, I'm not saying believe everything you read on Google.
Yeah.
But a Google review of any place, any kind of internet review, if they have a website, reviews on that, see what people have said, because if there's nothing, it's hard to gauge.
Yeah. Even if there's, like you said, good reviews, bad reviews, but there's no reviews, that might be
a red flag.
Yeah. Might be, yeah.
What are some other red flags?
Check out their address. They could have a virtual address. Virtual address, there's nobody there, which to me is the biggest red flag. If you're running a business, you have people at a location that are working, that you can contact, that you can see.
Yeah, and we see a lot of virtual addresses now, so we're not saying that in and of itself is scandalous or sketchy. But when you're doing business with someone, yeah, like Lisa said, you want to be able to see them, and potentially meet with them. I mean, or know they exist.
Yeah. Everything about them's not made up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And I think you mentioned this. If the load seems too good to be true, if it seems like, gosh, this is paying more than it typically would, that's also
probably
too good to be true.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Other things we would recommend, if they've got a phone number on the load board, cross-reference it with FMCSA. Does the information under their broker authority match the other information you're finding? Sometimes it won't. So it's not an immediate concern, but it's also something to tick in the in the tick box.
Right. And if they are asking for things that normally they wouldn't, with your MC or DOT number, you have a PIN number that you create. If they're asking for that information, that's way too much info. They don't need to know your PIN number. So when they start diving into your details, that could be a red flag.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, not everyone you haul for is going to have an MC or DOT number to check out. Some people just haul directly for the shipper, and honestly, those are, I think, some of the best paying gigs out there if you can manage it. But they're not very common, but they aren't going to have MC or DOT information to look up typically. They might, but that's not always the case. So
usually you'll have a relationship with that shipper.
Usually so. But it has to start somewhere. Yeah. So you can still use a lot of those methods. Look them up. See, like Lisa said, talk to your friends, see if there's anyone else that's hauled for them, or chat boards or something like that.
All right. Ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Trina Skywalker and Lisa Waskey of OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department. If you have any questions about truck insurance, you can call 816-229-5791. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. We'll be back after this.
At Truck Stop, we've built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit capitalreman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. If you're hauling freight and running your own business, you need to keep track of some basic facts and figures that can determine whether you succeed or fail. And that includes finding the freight and how much money you can make hauling it. Today, Landline Now's Ashley Blackford will bring us some of that information and get some insight as to why things are happening with the folks from truckstop.com. Here's Ashley now with a report.
Thanks, Mark, and hello to Brent Hutto with Truckstop. How are you doing today, Brent?
Man, I'm at the Mid-America Truck Show in Louisville, Kentucky, where trucking and America meet. The truck drivers are here. OIDA is here. All my friends are here. So I'm super excited about this week just because I love being around truck drivers and I love being around our industry.
All right, that's awesome. Let's dive in here. Current market conditions. You have another Miley Cyrus song. I'm worried one of these weeks you're going to have Wrecking Ball, but we don't have Wrecking Ball today.
Well, I did see that as one of the Miley references, but no, that's not appropriate right now for where the market's going. You know, I got We Can't Stop. It's kind of cool. It kind of backs up the climb from last week, and you know, Miley Cyrus is kind of fun. I admire her, man. She's made something for herself, and so. But no, the song "We Can't Stop," which I believe was off the Wrecking Ball album, and "We Can't Stop." Just the industry is continuing to show strength, and that's the most important thing I want owner operators to know. And that's why you need to keep looking in the freight lanes, keep negotiating for the best rates and the best rates you can find. And the best rates and the best freight are not different. A lot of people think, oh, that's different. They're not different. So you just got to know how to negotiate those things. And so, yeah, so the current market conditions are the pressure in the market or the strength in the market continues to grow. The average index in the market, which is called the market demand index, that's the truck stop number. We've been putting it out for over 20 years. Is usually about 55, and that's the balance. That's normal, right? So we're at 100 this week, 100. And so that's a good thing. The good thing is load availability went up another almost 2%, and it's 17%. And that's amazing. 17% above its 5-year average. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that, hey, if those things, if the fuel load postings are going up, rates are going up. And they did. They went up 3 cents week over week in just overall rates. It was really driven, Ashley, by the flatbed marketplace, which increased another 3 cents. By the way, flatbed is up 12 cents per mile in the last 4 weeks, which is meaningful, super meaningful. Unfortunately, van still kind of low. It's $1.85, which, you know, you just got to work on your efficiency. I'll talk a little bit about that in the end. But fuel dropped another penny. By the way, refrigerated dropped another penny too, but the fuel dropped another penny. Probably some of these decreases are because fuel dropped, and that does happen with rates. But the promising thing is the outbound tender reject index, which is the contract freight, the bigger part of the freight in the marketplace. The rejections increased another 1% above where they were, so they increased over 15%. That means we're going to get more freight in the spot market. So it's super important to look at that. And so the conditions are actually more and more favorable as we've talked about. The rates coming up and getting back all the way to normal during the 2025 marketplace.
What are some of the top regions and lanes from last week?
Yeah, so you would expect if you had, the increases in load availability and rates, and some lanes would be increased, and they did. All but one lane increase, and it was the Southeast. The Southeast went down 2.5%, but it had been up tremendously in load availability over the past few weeks. It's up 27% year over year. So I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers out there, but just know the marketplaces are above. So anywhere from 4% or 3% or 4% up to about almost 9%, different areas. West Coast went up 9%. Remember, the week before it was down. So, and rates in general increased. Every single rate went up, but not like 10%. It went up like 1% or 2%, which is good. We really don't want shocks to the system as we're climbing back out because we want to see strength. And so as rates continue to increase, you want to see them come up very slowly. If they come up slowly, that shows you they're probably not going backwards. Some of the lanes in the marketplaces. So van freight had a little bit of a difference. A van out of Tampa to Atlanta, Phoenix to Albuquerque, Laredo to Oklahoma City, you see a little bit less. So over the last few weeks, you've seen a little bit less focus on just the Texas market, more on the overall marketplace. Flatbed, still sort of the same thing. Houston, Las Vegas to Denver, Chicago to Miami. Variety is good. That means there's opportunity everywhere in America. Refrigerated, same thing. Houston to Abilene, Las Vegas to Phoenix, Portland to Boise, Idaho. That's where Truck Stop is the home office of Truck Stop is in Idaho. So, but it's good to see variety in that because it shows the overall lane opportunities or load opportunities are increasing across the country. So that's a good thing. We're not back yet. So don't get, we got to temper our enthusiasm just a touch, but it certainly shows signs of getting there.
What are some important industry points that owner-operators should be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just talk about the marketplace, and then I'm going to talk about how you can help your own market. So for my good friends over at FreightWaves, they have a bunch of data out there. So one of the things I always want to look at is that what's the difference between spot market cost and contract cost? Well, right now, there's about an 11 cents difference. Well, 2 weeks ago, it was a 1 cent difference. So the good thing is that spot rates and van or contract, this is all in the van marketplace. That's the bigger part of the market, actually. So those rates are staying within, 10 cents of each other. So they're kind of ebbing and flowing back and forth. But the good thing is that as you see spot begin to gain strength, it should go above the contract rate in the market, which is a good thing. Spot market rates are typically above contract rates because they're usually just more harder to haul. So that's super important. So just that shows more strength in the market. And so that's a good thing. And the last thing is all right, so this is a difficult market. It's been a difficult market since the end of 2022 when it kind of came back to normal. The reason it's been hard is because costs have been up. And how much have they been up? 25%. This is from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics and some of my good friends and economists that talk to me about these things. But the thing why do I say that? Why do I say that? Because as a trucker, the thing, you can't control the rates. You can't control the marketplace. That's the supply and demand. But you can control your cost. You can control your fuel mileage. You can control how the expenses that you spend on fuel, on food, on the things that your operation. So it's super important to look at that because overall costs for trucking have gone up 25% since 2023. That is a massive increase in your cost to run your operation. So if you can move from 6.5 or 7.5 miles per gallon up to 7.5, 8.5, 9.5. I've got friends that run almost 11. Owner operators that run almost 11. Then you're able to make back the money that at least most of the money that you're missing from the standpoint of the cost of inflation, which makes everything go up. So that's my point about this: is that as a trucker, watch your cost, know your cost, know what your costs are on your operation, so you can make the most profit and enjoy being a trucker.
All right. We've got about a minute and a half left.
Okay.
Like you said, you're at the Mid-America Trucking Show.
I am.
What are you expecting to be some of the hot topics there?
Well, I was just walking around. I'm hosting how about this, Ashley? I'm hosting a breakfast on Thursday morning for Mid-America. They got a kickoff breakfast. You got to pay to come to this thing. And you know who's going to be on the panel? The one and only Louis Pugh.
Of course.
So he sure is. He's going to be on the panel. I might have personally invited him. I don't know. But no, the topic talk about what's going on with fraud, what's going on with the current tariffs that are going on, what's going on in the overall marketplace. When is it going to come back to health? And the good thing about this, Ashley, is that, I'm here and I've been coming to this show since 1998, which means, Ashley, I've eaten a lot of pork chop sandwiches because they have a lot of pork chop sandwiches here, which means I have a good perspective in the show. So they've got some construction going off on one end so that the show is only going to be in two halls. It's going to be in the North Hall and the South Hall, which are the bigger halls. And so it's going to be different. But the good thing is I think there's 800 or 900 exhibitors here. It looks healthy. It's kind of good to be here when they're just setting up all the booths and everything. So in general, I talked to Toby Young, the guy who's he's part owner in the show, and he's the exhibit management leader for the entire show. And he said he's very enthusiastic about the show, which means, it's his bottom line. So if he's enthusiastic, the industry should be enthusiastic. But happy to be here. Love Mid-America. Love what goes on with the truckers that are here. It's going to be a fun 3 days.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Brent.
Ashley, always good to talk to you. Keep on trucking, and really appreciate what you guys at Landline know how to do to help the American trucker.
That was Brent Hutto with Truck Stop. Mark, back to you.
Thanks, Ashley. That's our program for today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
A son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
Chrome, and I am a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit ooida.com.